The universality of religion and how they evolved for man's spirituality. In fairness to former Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte's infamous "stupid God" remark, I have to say, I actually agree with the spirit of what he said, especially when it comes to the portrayal of God in the Old Testament. That version of God, vengeful, tribal, and genocidal, is not a God I can believe in. I believe in God, yes, but not the God described by ancient Israelite scribes. That image was shaped over time to serve a particular people in a particular context. In many ways, they created God in their image, not the other way around. Like Duterte, I also find the concept of original sin irrational and deeply problematic. The idea that humanity is condemned for the supposed transgression of a symbolic first couple doesn't align with a just and loving God. And when you add to that the violent, genocidal commands attributed to God in the Old Testament, such as instructing the Israelites to kill every man, woman, child, and even animal, while keeping the virgins as spoils of war, it becomes even harder to reconcile that image with the benevolent, all-loving God we're taught about in Christian theology. What kind of merciful God would sanction such acts and still claim to be the God of all people? It becomes painfully clear that religion, in this context, was also a tool for justifying conquest and ethno-nationalist violence. The Israelites, like many ancient peoples, used divine authority to sanctify their wars and expansions. In fact, there's compelling evidence that many of the stories in the Hebrew Bible, such as the Garden of Eden and Noah's flood, were adapted from older Babylonian myths. These stories were likely written down by Israelite scribes during their exile in Babylon under King Nebuchadnezzar. The first 5 books of the Bible, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, were not written by Moses, as tradition claims, but compiled and edited centuries later by priests and scholars influenced by the cultures around them. Consider this: the rivers Euphrates and Tigris, mentioned in the Eden story, are real and still flow through present-day Iraq, the area believed to be near the location of the biblical Garden of Eden. The Mesopotamian marshes in southern Iraq is now recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. This geographical grounding points not to divine revelation, but to the mythological and cultural borrowings of the time. Ultimately, I believe that religion is a product of humanity's evolving search for truth, meaning, and the divine. Our innate spirituality drives us to seek the sacred, and in doing so, we have founded religions that reflect our understanding of the divine at different points in history. These beliefs evolve, borrow from each other, and adapt. Christianity, for example, is heavily influenced by Greek philosophy. Buddhism absorbed elements of Hinduism. Islam drew from both Judaism and Christianity. No single religion holds a monopoly on the truth about God. Religious syncretism, the fusion of different beliefs, traditions, and practices, is not an anomaly, but the norm. It reflects the spiritual journey of humanity, a collective quest to understand the divine presence within and around us. At the end of the day, faith should deepen our compassion, expand our understanding, and connect us to one another. And that, I believe, is the real essence of any genuine spirituality. In many ways, I believe it was inevitable that humanity created God in its image, rather than the other way around. As human beings search for meaning and attempt to understand the divine, we naturally look inward. After all, many spiritual traditions affirm that the divine resides within us. So when we try to grasp the nature of God, we do so through the lens of our own consciousness, culture, and limitations. This inward journey inevitably shapes the way we perceive and define the divine. Our understanding of God, then, is not static. As we evolve, intellectually, morally, and spiritually, so too does our image of the divine. The God of ancient tribes, often portrayed as vengeful, jealous, and tribal, slowly gives way to a more universal, compassionate, and just conception of the divine. Our faith is not fixed. It is dynamic. It reflects our ongoing efforts to make sense of the sacred, the moral, and the mysterious within and around us. As we continue to grow in wisdom and empathy, so does our vision of the divine, becoming less about domination and fear, and more about love, justice, and unity.